Hey students, Tim here again, and welcome to the second lesson in the home piano course. Remember, for this course we're going to be using this book right here. Not 100% required, but you are going to get a lot more out of the course. Today, if you get the book, today we are going to be talking about... So last time we covered a ton. So if you didn't see that first lesson, make sure you check it out in the link description. Today we are going to cover a little less than a ton. It's going to be less pages, however... a lot of stuff is going to be covered in those 10 pages. We're basically going to be talking about rests and how to count those, different time signatures, basics of rhythm, some pieces that you can learn, dynamic signs, how loud to play, and then the rest is going to be an introduction into intervals. So you remember from last time I asked that you playing on the grand staff. That will basically set you up to play everything else. One thing I didn't mention last time, because this was more about the grand staff, is that we have a time signature and this thing called rhythm, which is basically the quarter notes and half notes and things that we've been talking about so far. But the other part of it is the time signature. Time signature tells you two very important things. The top number, which you're going to be paying the most attention to as a beginner, tells you that there's going to be 4 beats in each measure. Now, what's a measure? Well, take a look at the music. Notice how the music is broken up into these little boxes. Notice these vertical lines, and then they kind of form a box. Those are called measures. And when you count out a measure, you're counting out the treble clef and bass clef like together, like independently. You're not going to count the notes up here and the notes down here as the beats. You're only going to be counting 1, 2, 3, 4. There can only be 4 beats in the right hand and 4 beats in the left hand is what I'm trying to say. The left hand has whole rest, so you're going to be resting for 4 beats. So that kind of makes it easier for you for that piece. Now, the top number tells you 4 beats in each measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what about this one? There's only 3 here. Well, remember that it's 4 beats and not 4 notes, right? So since this last one's worth 2, we actually have beats 1, beat 2, and then 3 and 4 is going to be taken up by the half note. One more thing I want to tell you about is that when you start dealing with time signatures, you want to start counting each measure up to 4. So rather than counting these 1, 1, 1, 1, you're going to count them 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just want to show you that's what 4, 4 is about. The bottom number actually tells you just that the quarter note, this guy, gets 1 beat. So you may be asking, is there a time when the quarter note doesn't get 1 beat? And the answer is yes, but later. So let's take a look at rock along here. Very simple piece. Again, you basically have your left hand blocked out with those whole rests, and then you have the right hand part and then a left hand part. That's very similar. And then what do the 2 dots mean at the end? That's a repeat, so you're going to play that again. I'm going to play this one for you so you can follow along if you need to, and then I'll let you kind of learn some of the other stuff or the next piece on your own. So here is Rock Along. So once again, I'm getting over the bench, I'm getting my feet flat on the floor, sitting up straight, all the good stuff. Whole notes and half notes for the correct amount. I'm going to let you learn Mexican. Well, you know what? I will talk about this one because it introduces a quarter rest. This is Mexican hat dance. By the way, there's the book view. Now there's a quarter rest here. So what you're going to do is like the quarter note where you hit the piano and play 1. This time, it's so crazy, you guys. You don't play the piano and you count for 1. Let me show you how this works in the context of the piece, right? So let's just take this bottom line here. So you got beats 1 and 2, and by the way, the right hand's just taken up with whole rest. Don't need to worry about it right now. So you got beats 1, 2, 3 there with the quarter note, right? And then beat 4, you're just not going to play. So it's going to be kind of like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the the right hand does the same thing. So I will let you practice that on your own, and then keep in mind that you got the repeat there at the end. So one thing I think I forgot to mention in the last lesson is the whole note. The whole note, which we've been playing, so you probably got the idea, is like the half note. It doesn't have a stem. It's like the only one, and that's going to get 4 counts. So pretty easy. It's twice. So each of these, so half note is twice the value of a quarter note, and a whole note is twice the value of a half note, and 4 times the amount of a quarter note. So all it says is in the box below, write the number of beats. So 2, 1, and then you can figure out the rest. Let's see what this is telling us. Bar lines divide the music into measures like we talked about last time. So there's 4 measures there. Complete each measure by adding just 1 G to each. Okay, so that the count adds up to 4. So we use a little math here, which I haven't taken in a long time. But we're just going to add 1 G in that first measure because we got 1, 2, 3. And then it's like, okay, how many till 4? Well, just 1. So use a quarter note. So here we have 2 quarter notes, 1, 2. But we still need 2 beats to finish out the measure. And we're only allowed to write 1 G. So we're going to write 1 half note, which happens to be a G. We got 2 beats here. That means we need 2 more. And then for the last one, there's nothing written, so that's 0. So we need a whole note to fill out all 4. I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. Lightly row. Oh, this one's kind of interesting. I'm going to let you practice this on your own because it's very easy. Add bar lines and then divide the music into measures of 4 counts each. Now, this is like the opposite. They got the stuff written out for us, and you just play some, you know, where they would go. They kind of spaced it out for you. It makes it a little too obvious in my opinion, but that's okay. We're beginners here. So here they drew the line here. Let's figure this out. They got 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's weird. We have a whole rest too. So doesn't that equal 8? No. Remember what I said earlier. You're counting these independently of one another. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this would be counted 1, 2, 3, 4, all on its own. And if you think about it, it's because when you do the grand staff, you're literally playing these through at the same time. You're not doing this one and then this one. So anyway, there's the line there. That makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to draw another one there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're good at counting to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and good at simple arithmetic, you'll do just fine. And then I'm going to let you do the rest on your own, actually. I don't want to do too much for you. Let's see what else it says. Add a whole rest in each measure. I'm guessing the left hand. Indicate silence for the left hand or the right hand. Okay, so what they're showing you is just, you know, the other hand. You're going to be writing a whole rest. Whole rest, by the way, it's really confusing between the whole rest and a half rest, which actually is the same symbol, just on the bottom of that space. So, but we'll see more of those as we go along. So a whole rest is pretty easy. You just go up to the 4th line, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just draw a little line underneath it. Same thing here. It's the 4th line up on the treble. Oops, except I missed it. And there we go. And then write the name of each note. I think you can handle this on your own. You know, I'm just going to do maybe the first couple of each measure just to make sure that you're on the right track. And hopefully you can read my handwriting. Okay, go tell Aunt Rhody. Same thing. You're adding in bar lines. This one isn't quite as easily discernible just by how it's spaced out like the other one was. So I'm glad they did that. Same thing. You're adding whole rests, you know, where they belong. You're adding bar lines where they belong. You're adding, you know, you're writing in some notes. It's just a free-for-all of excellence here. And then last thing, you want to play through the piece. I think you can handle this part on your own. There's really nothing new, like playing-wise here. So let me know if you have any trouble with it, and then I'll in the comments, and then I'll help you out. Or, you know, maybe one of my excellent students will chime in as well. So melodic intervals. So this is really important because melodic is when you play one note at a time, like this. That's melodic playing. Harmonic is when you play multiple notes at a time, like that. That's harmonic or harmony. One at a time, melody or melodic. Now, so in a piece of sheet music, melody generally goes from left to right, and harmony is read up and down, because if you think about it, these notes are being played at the same time. So you'll definitely see those two words a lot in your music. What they're showing you here is an interval is the distance between two notes. So if you have a note, on the piano. And then the very next note, that's called a second. So 1, 2. It's really easy. All you do is you pick the first note, and then the second note you're dealing with, and then you count all the notes in between. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a fifth above C is G. But these are all seconds and thirds for now. So either C to D, and where would a third D or third B, do you think? Well, it'll just be one more up, right? Pretty easy. So do that exercise with your right hand, left hand. Playing wise, nothing really new here. So I think you can handle that. I will play the next one for you because we add in a dynamic sign. Piano, which means to play soft. So there you go. You have P in the beginning here, and then you're going to play soft until it tells you otherwise. So here we go. I'm going to play this one for you, and I'm just going to show you kind of what the soft and loud is about. So loud, rather, you're really going to hit the keyboard, but soft, then you got the repeat. So you're not putting a lot of pressure on the keys. The next one, a tisket, a tasket, this is called mezzo forte. And by the way, if you take the M away, that's just forte. That means loud. So on one end of the spectrum, you have P, which is soft. If you have double P, that's more than soft. If you have F on the other end, so it ranges from P to F, with double P being on one end and double F being on the super loud end, and then F forte is loud. If you stick an M in front of it, it changes it a little bit. And I would just think of mezzo as meaning moderately or medium. So medium loud. So it brings it softer than loud. So here, I want to draw a spectrum for you. It's very scientific. So here is the order in which the dynamics go. So like I said, you have the two spectrums P and F, soft and loud. You have double soft, double loud. And then as you come into the middle here, this is why I wanted to write this, you're actually bringing medium loud like back towards piano or soft. Same thing, but with mezzo piano, making it louder towards forte, because students don't have any trouble like getting the P's and the F's and the pianissimo, fortissimo, but they do struggle sometimes getting those confused because it does something different depending on if it's soft or loud. But if you think about this spectrum right here, it will make lots of sense, I think. So we're just going to play this piece. You're going to play it medium loud, and that's kind of a feel kind of thing. You may think like, well, how loud is medium loud? Maybe just get on the piano a little bit. Maybe not smack the key as hard as you can, maybe not as soft as you can, but somewhere in between. So let me play this facing the correct way. Just like that. So not crazy one way or crazy the other, just kind of in the middle. I'll let you practice that. Well, I practiced it with you, but practice that and all the pieces we talked about so far. Let's take a look at this next page. There's the book. So they're showing you measuring melodic seconds and thirds. This is really important because a second on the sheet music will always go from line to space or space to line. They're showing you this here, always. So they're literally right next to each other. However, a third, you're actually skipping over a note. So just pretend that one doesn't exist. You're literally going from line to line or space to space. So if you're going right in the order and they alternate line, space, or space, line, you got a second. And then if they skip or have, like space, line, space, space, and they're relatively close together, that is a third. We're going to do this little bit together, at least part of it. I'll let you do the rest, like I said, on your own. That's probably something you're tired of hearing by now. But anyway, they're just showing you, you're looking at the second note in correlation to the first note. So they're showing you, is this second note higher or lower, up or down from this first note here? And it's definitely higher up, so you're going to write up. and it's up a second. This one, the second note, is it higher or lower than this one? Well, clearly it's lower. You know, it's spatial things do carry over to music as well, so that's down. And that's specifically line to line, so that's down a third. Let's do this one together. We got space to line, they're really close. And this second one is definitely higher, right? So we're going to write up, and that's a second because they're right next to one another. This one, the second one, is down, and that happens to be a third because it's space to space. Let's do one a little further down, shall we? This one, C to D. So the second note's definitely higher. It's the first question you want to ask yourself. And then the distance, space to line, is definitely a second. On to the next page, harmonic intervals. I will play Rockin intervals. Well, you know what? I'm going to actually, I'll play Rockin intervals for you here in a minute because they show you something new. Harmonic intervals, it's literally the same thing except you're playing multiple notes at the same time, like I talked about just a few minutes ago. So you're going to be playing this instead of one at a time. Pretty easy. So this first measure here, this page, and normally I would have proper posture and everything, but I'm just showing you. So that's generally how you're going to play that one. Remember, you got the repeats and mezzo forte. Oh, hey, look, I said that forte was coming, didn't I? Or if I didn't, I meant to say that. So forte is loud. This one also has the quarter rest, so it is a little tricky. You might want to write out the counting on this one. So you might want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, just to kind of like line up where each of these things are. Like in measure 2 now, you know beat 1 has here. Beat 2, you're going to rest. 3, you're going to hit. 4, you're going to rest. Here, you got rest up here, so you don't need to, you can ignore that. You're going to be playing the intervals we just talked about up here. So even though it looks really complicated, I have a lot of students that when I show them this one, that's what they say. It's really not that bad. Now let me play it for you. You can follow along if you want. Watch this part over just to kind of give you a glimpse on how to play this. All right, stop. Play through it twice. All right, there's still a little bit more we're going to cover today. I might have you, what do you think I'm going to say? Play it on your own maybe, but I want to show you so that you're not lost here. These pages, actually, I am going to let you go kind of on your own with this because this is the same thing, melodic. Remember, one note at a time. We talked about that earlier. But now they're talking about fourths and fifths rather than seconds and thirds. They're a little further apart, as you can see, than the seconds and thirds were over on these pages. See how close they are? But it's the same concept, right? So the fourth, if you have a note on a line and the next note's on a space, or the opposite where you have space and then line, that, and they're a little bit further apart, that is going to be a fourth. And if you ever want to check on the piano, I said this a little bit earlier, is you take your two notes you're talking about, C and F, and then you count, including those two notes, how many notes are in between. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a fourth apart. So you can use that. In fact, in the beginning, you probably will need to use that. Sorry about this. So anyway, that's how you tell a fourth. And then a fifth is line to line or space to space. And that's a fifth. And there's always like a line in between, or a space in between. See how there's line and then not a line and line. And then space, not a space, space, just like that. And don't forget about your repeat. So if you haven't figured it out by now, all even number intervals, 2, 4, 6, 8, they don't match. If it's a line, the other one's going to be a space. If the other one's a space, the other one's going to be a line. All odd number intervals, 3, 6, 9, 12, and that's how that works, are going to match. So line, line, space, space. Get that through your head because that's going to help you out in the future. I'm going to let you practice these on your own. They're not introducing anything new here. You got your forte again, your piano. They kind of give you a good layout of the notes. Now, a question is, Should you be writing in the extra finger numbers? So say they give you the fingers to start with, but then you get lost a little bit. Well, should you write in the rest? In the beginning, it's okay. But you definitely don't want to start using finger numbers as a crutch, because what happens to all students when they do this is they will start relying on the numbers rather than reading the actual letters. It's supposed to guide you and not use it to cheat. Okay, we talked actually about this page. This is the measuring fourths and fifths. We literally just talked about that. I got ahead of myself a little bit. And you know what? I'm going to let you, let me see. Hold on a second. See exactly how far we're going. We're going to 31, and that's exactly where we're stopping. So we're going to stop here on Jingle Bells, and then we're actually going to, I might have you play the dueling harmonics. Yeah, you know what? This is your assignment for next time. Dueling harmonics. That's all on your own. Read the directions, fill it out. That's why I said to get the book. And then Jingle Bells, which is your first two-hand piece, really. They're showing you harmonic fourths and fifths up there. I'm going to let you read that on your own because it's just more of what we already discussed, and there's no reason to beat it to death. I think, like I said, if you have any trouble, let me know in the comments, and then I'll know like to help you out, or to make the next cover something in the next lesson, or in the future, something like that. So here's Jingle Bells. This one's a little tricky. It gets a lot of students, even though it's not as difficult as it might look. Keep in mind that you have notes that are going from left to right, so that's your melody. So the melody is almost always the part of the song everybody remembers. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. So that's your melody, and then you have, which I didn't sing very melodically, I'm sorry, and then you have your harmony, which are the notes being played at the same time. So anytime they kind of form a column, that's how you know they're playing at the same time. Now the great thing is that these are all whole notes here, and they're all the same note too, C, G, C, G. So you're literally going to be playing that. Let me get this up in here. Just like this, holding them as whole notes. And you're only going to be playing a new one each measure. So that really helps with lining up the right hand. I actually recommend learning the right hand first, the left hand separately, and then putting them together for this one. But say I've practiced both, I kind of have an idea on how both go. I'm going to be playing these at the same time, just like this. That's the half of it. The second half is literally the same thing. The end changes a little bit. So what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to play the whole second half just to show you. Because it does change at the end. You got to be careful. Just like that. And like I said, I'm going to have, if you do dueling, here it is. Get this out of the way. Man, I'm a mess today. So I want you to practice the dueling harmonics on your own. It's a lot of the stuff we've already talked about. There are some additional directions here, so make sure you look at that. Let's talk about the big thing nobody wants to talk about, which is practice time. How much should you be practicing a day? Still half an hour. And you're probably going to be practicing half an hour, maybe towards the end of the book, bump it up to an hour. But half an hour to 45 minutes, I say, right now would probably be fine. If you're on the younger side and your attention span maybe not there yet, shoot for 15 minutes to 30. Or split it up into two 15-minute sections, especially if you are very busy. Maybe get 15 minutes in before you go to work, and then 15 minutes, while dinner's cooking, or maybe right after dinner, before you sit down and watch TV for the rest of the night. So you want to be practicing all first of all, each time you practice, sit down, go over the entire things that we talked about in the book today, and go through each page, do all the assignments. You don't have to do them all in one sitting, but you basically just want to start out being like, okay, we started on page 20, You know, so you go to page 20, you read the stuff, you play the example, you play the example, you play the example. If you have trouble with the example, obviously play it again. You know, you don't want to leave it with so many mistakes, but it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect at the same time. You just want to, I try to be as objective as I can, especially in the beginning here. So each one, like if it introduces, I don't know, like 4/4 time signature, I'm mostly focusing on counting to 4, you know, understanding what that time signature means. Those are the most important things to get out of each piece, not necessarily perfection, but you want to get it as close as you can. So, you know, read through each thing, practice each thing, and then say you get through the whole thing and you're like, wow, I have 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left. As you go through and something doesn't make sense to you, or, you know, you really struggle with something, you know, start it in the book, and then with your extra 5 or 10 minutes, if you're lucky to have that, go through and look at those sections again. There's a lot of things you're going to find in music that you're going to kind of get little pieces of at first, and maybe you might not understand, but if you keep looking at it, keep practicing it, it will click together, and different things will begin to click together, and someday you may have even a eureka moment where you're like, wow, that thing in music theory really applied to this or this and this. So it's really important to not give up if you struggle learning something or understanding something. It's really something for all of us that you're going to have to look at over and over again and practice over and over again to get right. You're going to want to watch the next lesson in this series. I would spend about a week or two, if you need, going through the pages we talked about today as your assignments. And then once you do that, check out this next lesson right here. I'm going to put it right there for you. Thanks for coming by. It's been your piano teacher, Tim, here, and I'm going to see you, you, in the next lesson. Yeah!